Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, exploring the most fascinating tales of human history. Today, we find ourselves in the midst of one of the most pivotal conflicts of the 20th century, the Battle of Moscow. This epic struggle, which took place during the harsh winter of 1941-1942, was a crucible that tested the mettle of two mighty nations, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. As we delve into the earliest history of this battle, let us transport ourselves to the snow-covered plains of Russia, where the fate of Europe hung in the balance. It is here, amidst the frozen landscapes and the stalwart determination of the Russian people, that we find the precursors to this monumental clash. The seeds of conflict were sown in the early 1930s, as Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime began to expand its territorial ambitions, casting a covetous eye upon the Soviet Union's vast resources and strategic locations. In June 1941, the German Wehrmacht launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive invasion of Soviet territory that would ultimately lead to the Battle of Moscow. This operation was the largest military invasion in history, with over 3 million German troops pouring into the Soviet Union along a front that stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. As the Germans advanced, they encountered fierce resistance from the Soviet people, who were determined to defend their motherland against the Nazi invaders. The Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin, had been wary of Hitler's intentions for some time and had begun to mobilize his military in preparation for a potential invasion. However, despite these preparations, the Soviet Union was still caught off guard by the sheer scale and speed of the German attack. The Red Army, as it was known, was forced to retreat in disarray, leaving behind vast swaths of territory and countless numbers of troops. As the Germans continued their advance, they began to encounter the harsh realities of the Russian winter. The temperatures were plummeting, the snow was deepening, and the Soviet guerrilla fighters were becoming increasingly effective at disrupting German supply lines. Despite these challenges, the Germans remained resolute in their determination to capture Moscow, which they saw as the key to winning the war on the Eastern Front. The city of Moscow itself was a hub of military activity, with troops and supplies pouring in from all corners of the Soviet Union. The Kremlin, the seat of Soviet power, was abuzz with activity as Stalin and his advisors coordinated the defense of the city. The streets were filled with soldiers, tanks, and artillery, all preparing for the impending battle. The German army, on the other hand, was facing its own set of challenges. The invasion of the Soviet Union had been launched with great fanfare, but the Germans had underestimated the tenacity and resilience of the Soviet people. As the winter months approached, the Germans found themselves ill-prepared for the harsh Russian climate, with inadequate clothing and supplies. As we conclude our examination of the origins of the Battle of Moscow, we find ourselves poised on the threshold of a new era in this epic struggle. The stage is set for a dramatic confrontation between two titans of the 20th century, each determined to emerge victorious from the frozen landscape of Russia. The Soviet people were ready to defend their capital, and the German army was prepared to launch a final assault on the city. Join me as we proceed to the next chapter in our narrative, where we will delve into the heart of the Battle of Moscow and explore the pivotal events that took place during this period, including the Soviet counterattack and the eventual defeat of the German army. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, as we continue our journey through the annals of time, exploring the most fascinating tales of human history. Today we find ourselves in the midst of one of the most pivotal conflicts of the 20th century, the Battle of Moscow. As we delve into the heart of this epic struggle, we witness a dramatic turn of events that would ultimately seal the fate of the German army and shape the course of World War II. The Soviet counterattack, launched in December 1941, was a masterclass in military strategy and determination. Led by General Georgy Zhukov, the Red Army poured all its might into a massive assault on the German forces, who were struggling to cope with the harsh Russian winter. The temperatures were plummeting, the snow was deepening, and the Soviet guerrilla fighters were becoming increasingly effective at disrupting German supply lines. As the Soviet army advanced, they encountered the remnants of the German army, who were exhausted, hungry, and ill-equipped to face the fury of the Red Army. The Battle of Moscow was a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Russian people, who had endured unimaginable hardships and sacrifices in their defense of the motherland. As Stalin himself said, "The Soviet people will not be intimidated by the fascist invaders, and we will fight to the last man to defend our great nation." The Soviet leader's words were echoed by the millions of soldiers, civilians, and partisans who fought bravely against the German army, using every trick in the book to outmaneuver and outfight their enemies. One of the most significant factors that contributed to the Soviet victory was the scorched earth policy, which involved destroying everything of value that could be used by the German army. This included burning crops, demolishing buildings, and sabotaging infrastructure, leaving the Germans with nothing but rubble and ash. The Soviet people also employed clever tactics such as fake radio transmissions, decoy troops, and sabotage to confuse and disrupt the German command structure. As the Soviet army pushed the Germans back, they began to retake key cities and territories that had been lost earlier in the war. The city of Moscow, which had been the primary objective of the German invasion, was now safe, and the Soviet people could breathe a sigh of relief. The German army, on the other hand, was in disarray, with thousands of soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. The defeat at Moscow marked a turning point in the war on the Eastern Front, as the Germans never fully recovered from the loss. The Battle of Moscow was also significant, because it marked the first major defeat of the German army in World War II. The victory boosted the morale of the Soviet people and gave them hope that they could ultimately win the war. It also had a profound impact on the course of the war, as it forced the Germans to divert troops and resources from other fronts, weakening their overall position. As we conclude our examination of the heart of the Battle of Moscow, we find ourselves in awe of the bravery, resilience, and determination of the Soviet people, who fought against all odds to defend their nation. The Soviet counterattack was a testament to the power of strategic planning, clever tactics, and sheer force of will. Join me as we proceed to the final chapter in our narrative, where we will explore the decline and aftermath of the Battle of Moscow and examine the lasting legacy of this pivotal conflict on the course of human history. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, as we conclude our journey through the annals of time, exploring the most fascinating tales of human history. Today, we find ourselves in the aftermath of one of the most pivotal conflicts of the 20th century, the Battle of Moscow. As we delve into the decline and legacy of this epic struggle, we witness a profound impact on the course of World War II and the fate of the Soviet Union. The defeat of the German army at Moscow marked a significant turning point in the war on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory boosted morale, and the Red Army began to push the Germans back, retaking key cities and territories that had been lost earlier in the war. The city of Stalingrad, which had been the site of another brutal battle, was eventually recaptured by the Soviets in February 1943, marking a major defeat for the German army. The Soviet advance continued, with the Red Army pushing deep into Eastern Europe, ultimately capturing Berlin in April 1945. The Battle of Moscow also had a profound impact on the German war effort. The loss of thousands of soldiers, combined with the devastating effects of the Russian winter, weakened the German army and forced them to divert troops and resources from other fronts. The defeat at Moscow marked a significant shift in the balance of power on the Eastern Front, as the Soviets gained the upper hand and the Germans struggled to recover. In the years following the war, the Soviet Union emerged as a superpower, with the Battle of Moscow playing a significant role in shaping the country's identity and ideology. The bravery and resilience of the Soviet people during the battle were celebrated as a national triumph, and the event became an integral part of Soviet propaganda and folklore. The legacy of the battle can still be seen today, with the Soviet victory at Moscow remembered as a testament to the power of determination and strategic planning. The Battle of Moscow also had a profound impact on the world order, contributing to the emergence of the Cold War and the division of Europe into Eastern and Western blocs. The Soviet Union's rise to superpower status, combined with its ideological differences with the West, created a decades-long standoff that would shape international relations for generations to come. As we reflect on the decline and legacy of the Battle of Moscow, we are reminded of the words of General Georgy Zhukov, who said, "The Soviet people will always remember the bravery and sacrifice of those who fought to defend our great nation." The battle may be a distant memory, but its impact on the course of human history remains profound. The Soviet victory at Moscow marked a turning point in World War II, shaped the fate of the Soviet Union, and contributed to the emergence of the modern world order. In conclusion, the Battle of Moscow was a pivotal moment in human history, marking a significant turning point in World War II and shaping the course of international relations for generations to come. The bravery, resilience, and determination of the Soviet people during the battle will always be remembered as a testament to the power of the human spirit. Join me next time on History with Herodotus as we explore more fascinating tales from the annals of time. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.